Hi, and we are back at Intel Innovation 2023, and the 6.5 is on the road. We have an incredible amount of coverage. We're covering new technologies all the way from the client to the hyperscaler data center and pretty much everything in between. AI has been a huge focus here. But Dan, this is not the Vision Conference. This is Innovation Conference, which is all about developers, and it's excited to see all this developer content.
Yeah, it's been a good couple of days here, Pat. The Innovation Conference brings together sort of the technology arc with the developer community. And as we know, none of this technology is going to run without the developers building the software that sits on top of the silicon. It's a very important ecosystem. And although we like to sometimes weight where the importance lies, this is really the amalgamation of all those important factors that come together to drive an AI future.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot of fun to kind of hear the roadmap, see Pat doing his push-ups, but also pushing the envelope on getting these 5 process nodes out in 4 years and really building an AI future and a story for Intel in the AI realm.
It's funny, a lot of people like to see these big differences between silicon and CRM, but one thing that all developers, what's important to them is simplicity, accessibility, and everybody's trying to shave time off getting their products to market, right? It just makes sense. And one of the biggest announcements was that the Intel Developer Cloud went GA. Multiple types of silicon, multiple types of tools, and all the way from free versions to paid versions. So. And we always like to say that partners and customers are the grand purifier, and we not only have head of Intel Developer Cloud, but 2 partners here. So Marcus, Peter, Daniel, welcome to the 6.5, first time. Thank you for coming on the show, and congratulations on the big announcements.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do like to get that kind of ground truth. So we'll start with Marcus because I want to hear the Intel point
And then
of view.
compare notes.
But then we'll have
okay.
Marcus put on the earmuffs, and then we're going to ask, but in serious, Marcus, so everybody's very interested in what Intel is doing with the Intel Developer Cloud. Give us that kind of high level. What's the sauce? What's the excitement? Why is everybody so focused on this announcement?
Yeah, great question, Dan. Yeah, so I think the important one is we want to really cater to the developers, top to bottom. Right? I mean, we're making major investments in all parts of the stack. We're building out fabs. We're investing in process technologies, but we're very aggressively also investing in the software. And the best way to enable developers, it's the 21st century, is obviously to provide this as a cloud service. And that's what we've been focused on. And we're seeing 2 examples of people who are able to take advantage of that very quickly. A lot of people are just in the cloud native, and they want access to the latest and greatest, and the only way they can get access to that is as a cloud service. And that's what my team and I provide as a cloud service, which means that developers can come in, and they can come in at different layers of the stack. Somebody wants to go down, they want to go down to the bare metal layer, they want to directly optimize things at the very low levels, or other people come in, as you said, the CRM, not quite the CRM level, but at the MLOps at a higher level, and they just want to bring in their containers, and they just want to run their workload. And then, of course, everything else in between. And that's what we're really targeting with the Developer Cloud, is make it as easy, roll out the red carpet for the developers, have them come in, bring in their workloads, get the job done, and then they also have, as you mentioned, the paid option, and so they can actually then run some of the production also in that environment. But the first and foremost important one is that they can test out and take advantage of the latest and greatest technology. And especially in the context of AI, it's not just about just putting in an individual box and that's it, I'm done. In a lot of cases, it means they need larger clusters. In some cases, they need hundreds of Gaudi cards or Ponte Vecchios or GPU Max cards in the same cluster with high-end storage, high-end networking. We can provide them everything from just low-end VM all the way to these large clusters all in one place. And I think that's where we can help speed things up, because that means that if they want to go to a major CSP later on, if they want to go build stuff on-prem, they can really test drive things in the Developer Cloud. And not just the products that are out in the market today. I already have Emerald Rapids 5th generation Xeon already in the Developer Cloud today. So if developers come in, they can test drive. There's restrictions, we have limited quantities, but they can come in and they can test drive that next generation hardware with the latest software. They can bring in their software, they can optimize it. By the time it is available at the major CSPs, they can instantly hit the ground running. So it's a great way for us to expose our technology early on and then get the feedback from the developers, hear what's working well, what's not working well. We expect the performance should be this. They're only getting 90% of the performance. Where is that performance delta coming from? Maybe we have to go back, fix our part of the software. We can help them fix things on their end. It's a great way for us to collaborate with the ecosystem.
Got a big smile on my face when I saw the slide, that the one slide, everything's on it, and it shows CPUs, GPUs, FPGAs, Gaudi, and like you said, not only today but also tomorrow, because that really is it's funny, people talk about the circle of life. It's the circle of silicon, right? And one end, ultimate programmability, and the other end, you have ultimate efficiency, and then everything in between. I thought that was really, it's very unique out there. So like every great developer tool, every piece of software that has ever been on the planet, right, multi-stage step to get it out. You announced a beta previously, and also at the show, right, the big news was it was going GA. What were some of the learnings that you made or that you saw in between beta and going GA, or what optimizations did you make aside from what you would expect, like bugs, right? Bug fixes is always there, but any major things that changed?
Well, the most basic level, like when we first launched last year, we had a huge supply chain problem, and all we had was 1 gig switches. That's how we strung things together. Since then, we've dramatically upgraded. We have 100 gig switches all across the board. The other major shift in focus has been on AI.
Yeah.
On generative AI specifically, and that's where we've dramatically increased the number of accelerators that we put in the developer cloud, because that's where we see a huge amount of demand. And then the other thing we're seeing is that as we work with these communities, we're making changes all across the stack and improving things. The other thing we're seeing is that the workloads are changing so quickly, so that really also, like the cluster sizes that we're building out are much larger than what we initially anticipated. So there's a lot of, the workloads are changing so quickly. That's probably the biggest change, I think, that we're really learning from. It's hard to predict even what's happening 3 months from now.
How often do you do code drops and code changes?
It's continuous. It's a cloud service, so we're constantly updating firmware. We have a full validation pipeline, obviously, where we have synthetic workloads running. We make sure that things work well. And then we have a phased deployment out into the cloud. But the changes are flowing out continuously, because as you can imagine, it's a cloud service, so there's many different pieces, everything from firmware updates to OS updates to network OS changing, storage versions changing. It's a living organism.
So a quick adder though to the going GA are you seeing any material changes in your developer community itself? Are the developers evolving year to year as you're sort of seeing this product come to life?
Very much so. I think when we first started, it was just the bare metal, mostly it was the focus. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing more and more people coming in at higher levels of the stack. And that's where we're just going to continue building out higher and higher levels of abstractions. We are going to be introducing a Kubernetes service as well in the next couple of months, as well as additional MLOps services. So we want to. There's some people really care about the bare metal, but a lot of people just want to go and get the jobs done. And so that's where we're rapidly moving up the stack and providing high-level services for people. So it's more of a turnkey solution. I'm not the OS expert. I want to come in and test something. I want to bring in my containers. I just want to bring in my models, and I just want to run things. One of the other things we're doing, for instance, for large language models, we just gave a demo earlier today in the demo grounds, where we're also providing a large language model builder environment, meaning that I'm not an expert in building something, but I have a nice UI, fully abstracted, and I can go build stuff on top of it. Cool. So that's the direction that we're going.
Cool.
We should give Marcus a break.
No, I think we should. Right? We've heard all about the Intel Developer Cloud from Intel. Now let's
cross-check.
Let's cross-check these notes here. Maybe Peter, start with you with SiteMana. What are you doing in the Intel Developer Cloud?
SiteMana, we essentially do AI prediction, and then we do the email generation. We basically use the Intel Developer Cloud to actually generate those emails. So one of the things we talked earlier was like I'm using one of those 4X, the A1100. So it's like I'm not using the most expensive one, because I have to look at long-term unit economics that actually makes sense for me. right? And so although it's like right now you kind of see emails cranking out every 20 seconds or so. That's okay
Right.
because these are not mission critical. User does not have to interact with it. This is where you can see the Gen AI sort of working in the background while where the machine actually automates rather than me go in there like, hey, I like this, regenerate, like how you interact with most of the LLM these days. Overall experience, that's been pretty great. The most important part, again, unit economics for us, because we're looking at, because you're switching. Cause I've been playing with originally. You have these cloud credits, and then when you burn them up,
Yes.
you're like, oh, you buy your GPUs, you run these in your home, because and then you essentially use your production service hitting your home server, and then generating the stuff and then hitting it back, because then you're like at some point, oh man, like I don't want to run this stuff in my house. You're like, how do I get a data server running, right? And then you're like, okay, these GPUs off the market, you have specific licenses. You're not allowed to put them in the server into data center. You're like, okay, am I really breaking the license? Because I'm not really reselling the GPU. I'm just using this on my own. And this is why you need a service which is like commercially unit economic. Because when people like order these really expensive GPU servers, I'm always wondering like, how are you affording this? Like,
Right.
how are you like, and then, but the thing is that my point is like, because I have to make sure that makes sense for me first. Because every penny I have to pay for that's 1 penny out of my pocket. That's kind of, and then Intel Cloud, Developer Cloud does produce, it hits a pretty good balance in terms of affordability and the profitability.
That's that sounds good to me, right? And it sounds like flexibility when it comes to licensing and all the licenses of what you might use instead.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, scale is important, and I like that he used the word unit economics. When you're building it in startup mode, you have to be thinking about every expense, and every dollar's ideally going towards that customer acquisition.
We might know something about that. I don't know. Our tiny little companies, Dan.
We've done it.
Done this before.
We've done
yeah.
it. We've built it. We've helped others. Yep, for sure. So Dan, guy with a great name. So with Prediction Guard, we'd like to hear similarly your experience working with the Intel Developer Cloud. Talk a little bit about how you arrived and how that's how that's proliferating for you.
Yeah, so Prediction Guard provides sort of safe and trustworthy access to LLM models, which means that we host our own LLMs, custom inference and decoding out of those LLMs to control things like structure and factuality checking of the output, toxicity checking of the output. Which means that we need to run a lot of LLMs, in particular like the latest Llama 2's models and MPT, Falcon, these sort of private open models that people want to use for real enterprise use cases where
Right.
they have concerns maybe about privacy or other things of using just a closed API service for
Yeah,
their
by the way,
AI interactions.
Every SaaS conference we've been to, whether it's consumer or enterprise, has the magic layer. And it sounds like you've got the magic layer that turns kind of a homogeneous experience into one that's safer.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And a little bit more predictable.
Correct. Yeah. So it's that stage between like, oh, I've prototyped something cool with OpenAI to
Yes.
like, how do I scale this out in my business? That's kind of right where we live.
Right.
So in terms of Intel Developer Cloud, we need to host these models. We also need to do this in a very efficient way because a lot of our users are really enterprise use cases where, for example, they're parsing 7,000 medical transcriptions per day to fill out medical forms, or they're processing like 1 million patent applications to generate content for lawyers or something like that, right? So you can't do that with like these per token usage models that are out there. So we need to host our own models and provide that in a way that our customers can access them and put a volume of calls into those. So what we've done is actually we've used the 8x Gaudi 2 instance in Intel Developer Cloud, and currently we have 7 of our LLM models that we support hosted on Gaudi 2s, so mainly Llama 2 models, but also other like code generation models like Wizard Coder. And we're actually running those in production in our product. So we've got live customers hitting the models in Intel Developer Cloud on Gaudi 2 to do these sort of safe and reliable interactions with LLMs. And what we found is we had our models running on like cloud A100s. Not only is there a shortage of those and various problems with that, but they are expensive, especially if you want to keep them up all the time. So for us, it was really a game changer to be able to move these models over, host them, have them up all the time, and with really great tooling from like Hugging Face and Intel working together on the Optimum library and other things with Habana Labs. We were able to port over our model servers. We had them up and running in like an hour after getting access to
An hour.
Yeah.
My follow-up is going to be how long, how hard.
Yeah.
That blows me away. 1
Yeah.
hour.
So and not only in that hour, but we saw, at least for some of the models are slightly faster, but some of them, like the Llama 2 models, we're getting twice the throughput out of the Gaudi 2s as compared to what we were running in the A100s.
I think that's the highlight reel moment.
No, I know.
That's the super clip right there. So
Yeah.
no,
And
listen.
you
I
should
mean,
expect that. Just to clarify, I mean that's what we're seeing. There's a bunch of Hugging Face blogs also, and like
Yes.
one of the most recent blogs they're talking about how we're beating the H100 also by 40%.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I think you and I
models.
covered that on one of our Friday
we
shows.
did. Yeah, we hit that on the 6.5 podcast
Yeah.
Friday. So Marcus, I mean, Peter and Dan are obviously in here, and
Delighted to have them.
delighted. But for the 5 million other programmers out there that you might want to be attracting, how does somebody get started on this? How do they get started on the Intel Developer Cloud?
Very easy. You go to cloud.intel.com. It's all self-service. You register for the service, and off you go. We have the different tiers. You can apply for cloud credits, and you just get started and start using the service.
Are there any parameters of certain size, or does it have to be a company? Can it be a university, or any restrictions on
We
that?
don't have any restrictions. It's really open to anybody.
What's the advantage for getting in early now that the Intel Developer Cloud is GA?
We have an early adopter program, and the first 100 people who sign up for it will get super steep discounts. So don't be late for that.
Well, gosh, let's get the smartphones out, Dan. We're on this.
Already building.
I love it.
Well, that's very exciting, Marcus, and we appreciate you giving us a little bit. I mean, for everyone out there, listen, there you go. Check out that link in the show notes. Go give it a shot if you're a developer. But Marcus, appreciate you giving us the background from the Intel perspective. Dan, Peter, thank you both very much for sharing a little bit about your companies and how you're using the Intel Developer Cloud. I look forward to having all of these gentlemen back maybe next year.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm really impressed that there's actual production workloads being done. I hear developer and I think, it's for development and then you move it somewhere else. But it's impressive to think that real live production workloads are
Got to
happening
run
there.
businesses, print cash.
Exactly, and what a
what we have
benefit
to.
not having to move it. So
Next year, we're gonna basically 100x the actually basically revenue per inference.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
You definitely have to come on next year. This would be great. This is a to be continued here, folks, but really appreciate that.
It reminded me to talk founder shares.
No, exactly.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this episode of the 6.5 at Intel Innovation 2023 in San Jose. That was a great conversation. But for now, for Patrick and myself, we got to say goodbye, but we'll see you back really soon.